One Piece, Marco ascends as the ultimate phoenix. Episode 61. Edward Weibel's huge and burly body was instantly blasted out. Seeing this incredible scene, all the pirates were instantly shocked. This? Fake, right? One punch, just one punch? Everyone only felt that all this was too amazing, and they couldn't believe that this was true, so Edward Weibel was so strong and domineering, strong and invincible. As soon as he appeared, he killed the sea thief with a reward of more than 600 million in seconds. Right now, but was blasted away by Marco's punch. This has to be shocking. This is the power of Marco? Countless people were terrified in their hearts. Some people originally came for Marco, but when they saw such a scene at this moment, their hearts began to retreat, and even their courage to make a move against Marco was instantly shattered. Worthy of Marco. According to rumors, one person killed 3 Blackbeard pirate branch captains, including Shiryu. Sure enough, someone whispered in secret, with a sense of surprise in his words. Whitebeard too, known as Whitebeard's youth, unparalleled in the world, domineering and strong, but was bombarded by Marco's punch, which is enough to show that Marco's physical skills have become extremely powerful. The sea thief, known as the deep-sea crocodile, whispered. The sea thief, who was once offered a reward of 800 million, disappeared and reappeared, low-key, and extremely dangerous. His voice was dull and hoarse, invisible, making people feel dangerous. When the many pirates around him heard this, they couldn't help but think deeply. Impossible. Edward Weibel, who was blasted out, stared at a pair of copper bells with big eyes, and his eyes were full of incredulity. He didn't believe that he would be punched away by Marco. What a shame. This is something that must not be allowed to happen. Thundered. Edward Weibel's upside-down body, on the incomparably thick ice, like a pinball, smashed out deep pits one after another, and for a time, the sky was full of broken ice splashes. I said. If you want me to be headed, you can go together. Marco looked around, his tone was flat, with a killing intent, his gaze swept away, and everyone involuntarily retreated. The pirates who dare to come here are all famous people in the New World, but at this moment, no one dares to take a step forward. As for those sea thieves, they did not stand up at all and have been hiding in the shadows of the island. Still waiting for the moment. I'm going to kill you. Marco, Edward Weibel, who was bombarded, rushed to kill again. Then rushed wildly, and cracks appeared in the thick, frozen layer. Fierce. Incomparably overbearing. It's just that his fat and huge upper body has a terrifying fist mark. Even if he defends with armed color domineering, he is still beaten to blood, which is extremely terrifying. But his momentum of charging to kill is not weak at all, and even surpasses the previous sword. What kind of domineering power is hidden in that terrifying body? I am afraid no one knows. At this moment, that majestic power burst out. Gong. The snow-white blade, flashing with a dazzling cold light, and the huge knife that was more than 10 meters long, slashed across Marco. Airplanes. Edward Weibel's powerful armed, color domineering, in the process of cutting down the big knife instantly covered. Amazing killing power, once again. Your armed color domineering, in front of me. It's too weak. This time, Marco did not make any reservations, and the extremely strong armed color domineering instantly covered the fist, and a punch burst out instantly. Click. The big knife that covered the armed color domineering and cut down was actually directly shattered by a punch strengthened by Marco's armed color domineering. This? No way. Edward Weibel's face was full of shock. He couldn't believe that his big knife, which had cut off countless sea thieves, was actually shattered by Marco with his bare hands and punches. Marco won't give him any time to be shocked. After shattering the big knife, his punch was even more powerful, like running thunder, straight to Edward Weibel's heart. Edward Weibel only had time to strengthen his physical defense with armed color domineering, and he couldn't make more moves at all, and Marco's punch, which had already slammed, landed on his chest. Amazing power, directly beat the burly and huge Edward Weibel upside down and fly out. Burst. On his chest, a fist-like blood hole kept spraying blood. Boom. Edward Weibel fell to the ground, his eyes were filled with an extremely frightened look, reaching out to cover the blood hole that was constantly spraying blood, but he was shocked to find that his hands holding the knife were incapacitated after the big knife shattered. Blood kept gushing from Edward Weibel's mouth. Just for a moment. Die here. Hiss. For a time, the sound of pumping cold air continued to echo on the island. Marco's simple and domineering 2 punches beat the arrogant and domineering Edward Weibel to death. It's shocking. That amazing visual impact made all pirates' hearts constantly shake. It's a bit outrageous. Now, not only the pirates on the island were shaken, but outside the island, on the sea, countless pirates were also shocked by the pirate ships that stayed one after another. I don't know how many pirates were completely shocked by Marco's strong means almost at the same time. Who else? Marco's flat voice reached the ears of every pirate, but it made them feel like they had suffered 3,000 lightning strikes, and they were terrified. Silence, incomparably silent, no one dares to make a sound. Also, no one dares to take half a step forward. Boom. At this moment, not far from the port sea, a huge pirate ship crossed over. Without any words, this pirate ship with a bow shaped like a huge mammoth sculpture is directly aimed at the dense pirate ship in the port. No matter who is on board, no matter which pirate group, directly bombard out dense shells. For a time, the terrifying shell fire like a sudden rain exploded, and the pirate ships on the sea at the port were almost instantly bombarded and sunk by this pouring artillery fire. The domineering and stunning giant pirate ship crossed along a spacious sea that blasted out, and arrived at the port with a bang. When I saw the huge figure standing on this terrifying pirate ship, all pirates are shaken by it. For Emperor's 100 Beast Pirates, one of the 3 major disasters. Drought Jack. Episode 62, the 100 Beast Pirates landed in the port. The amazing means of all the pirate ships blocking their docking in front of them were extremely domineering, shocking all the pirates nearby. For Emperor's 100 Beasts Pirates, Drought Jack. This name, like the devil, made all the pirates twitch fiercely in their hearts. Looking at the sky of artillery fire, the bombarded pirate ships turned into fragments and silent on the bottom of the sea, but the mammoth came in scrupulously. One by one, the pirates dared to be angry and did not dare to speak. Even the extremely ferocious existence of the underground world, watching his pirate ship being bombarded and sunk by Drought Jack, still did not dare to say more. The mammoth, Drought Jack, is really extremely domineering. Someone secretly whispered that this is a sea thief from the underground world, once an extremely ferocious and brutal existence on this sea, and his pirate ship and crew were destroyed by Drought Jack. He just whispered. I didn't even dare to make my voice louder, for fear of being heard and provoking the Drought Jack to bombard and kill. All the pirates were shocked by the domineering appearance of Drought Jack. This is far more shocking and visually impactful than Marco's 2-punch blow to the powerful Edward Weibel before. The place where it is tread is like the appearance of a dry ray, it dries up and decays, and finally perishes. This is one of the 3 famous disasters under the 4 Emperors and 100 Beasts Pirates, Drought Jack. Boom. Drought Jack, who was extremely large, jumped from the mammoth, and the moment he landed on the ground, the entire ground shook violently like an earthquake. Marco. Get out! Drought Jack's upper body was as muscular as a dragon, and the moment he landed, he suddenly roared, shaking the mountains and forests. My ears hurt. The pirates who had already retreated to the surroundings, whose strength was a little inferior, hurriedly covered their ears one by one. Even so, they still felt that their eardrums hurt and buzzed with a long roar from Drought Jack. You know, the pirates who come here, even if they are a little less powerful, are all famous people in the New World. They were shocked by the long roar of Drought Jack, which shook their eardrums painfully. What a terrifying force. This long roar shook the entire island, and countless ferocious beasts on the island were all frightened to the ground at this moment, and did not dare to move. Crash. At this time, everyone suddenly heard a sound of flapping wings, followed by, in midair, Marco spread a pair of huge flame wings more than 40 meters long, and the lifelike blue flame wings were extremely dazzling. An extremely strong momentum emanated from Marco. The pirates below stared at each other, only to feel an unprecedented sense of fear enveloping them, and for a while, everyone's scalps were numb and their hearts were pounding. Knock knock. Soon, the pirate with the most inferior strength could not withstand this amazing momentum, and directly bent his knees and knelt on the ground. Immediately afterwards, the slightly stronger pirates also couldn't bear it, and began to tremble all over, fearful in their hearts, did not support for a few seconds, and their legs were soft one by one, kneeling on the ground. These kneeling pirates desperately supported their bodies with their hands, preventing their uncontrolled bodies from lying down. Can't stand it. Body. Uncontrollably want to kneel. The pirates, who sweated coldly for a long time, gritted their teeth and desperately supported their bodies, but they were shocked to find that they can't hold it. Knock knock. More pirates, kneeling on their knees. Click. The formation below their knees is cracked by it, which is shocking. What a shame. Unexpectedly. Scared to his knees by Marco's momentum, on the sea in the distance, there were pirates who rushed over from other seas, and when they saw this shocking picture, they couldn't help but exclaim with a blue face. Stupid. The captain beside him slapped him to death. This is Overlord color domineering. The pirates, who only dared to stay on the sea to watch the battle, began to rejoice and did not participate in this battle, because Marco is far more powerful than all of them imagined. 2 punches to kill the strong and domineering Edward Weibel. Now just with the domineering color of the Overlord, countless pirates who poured into the island from the New World knelt on the ground. You know, those pirates who dare to land on the island, but they are all powerful people, either cadres of the Sea Thief group, or famous sea thieves. And at the moment, except for some of the notorious sea thieves, who can barely grit their teeth and support, the rest of the pirates have already knelt down, as if worshipping Marco, who spread his huge flame wings in midair. Roar! Drought Jack roared, and the terrifying sound waves, like the waves of the sea, quickly stirred. Many pirates were dizzy by this roar, and only felt that their heads were buzzing, and the chi and blood in their bodies were tumbling, and they were about to rush out irrepressibly. Knock knock. Under this roar, those pirates who had struggled to support themselves and did not kneel also fell to the ground. Drought Jack raised his head and looked at Marco in midair. His copper bell-sized eyes flashed with endless battle intent. Marco, dare to fight me to the death. Why don't you dare? Marco looked down, and the plain voice full of murderous intent reached everyone's ears. He clenched his fists. Airplanes. Endless blue flames erupted above his fist. Just like the brilliant blue sun, it contains a majestic, terrifying power. The sea thieves on the ground, even if they have retreated to a very far place, still have numb scalps, and the fear that arises in their hearts is like suffering from a catastrophe, constantly surging. Retreat, retreat. This can finally be from Marco's overlord domineering. From the Drought Jack's roar, the pirates who persevered only felt frightened at this moment. Their bodies involuntarily trembled, and they hurriedly retreated one by one. Zheng. In Drought Jack's hands, two sickle-like weapons suddenly appeared, white blades, blooming with a cold light of sunsun. These two weapons once cut off the heads of the most famous people in the New World. Rumble. Marco swooped down. He threw out a punch, and endless blue flames burst out like the sun. His whole person, like a meteor falling from the sky, dragged out a blue flame trail in the air. With the momentum of thunder, it bombarded Drought Jack. Episode 63, Rumble. Marco carried the endless wind and thunder, like the hot and brilliant sun-like immortal god fist, and bombarded down. Buzz. An immortal, eternal breath of immortality shrouded the heavens and the earth. The majestic and terrifying power came down from above the sky, like the sun falling, extremely fast. Drought Jack below is armed with two terrifying sickle-like slashes, and slashes upwards. Boom. In the endless flames, Marco unquenched a punch, like a firmament pressing down, and Drought Jack bombarded together. The moment the two forces collided together, extremely terrifying storms were produced, and in an instant, circle after circle raged out, hitting the heavens and the earth, rolling up endless earth and rocks, and everywhere they passed, everything was rolled upside down and hit the mountains and forests in the distance. The sound of concussion continued to come out, and countless beasts knelt on the ground, not daring to move. The formation under Drought Jack's feet appeared countless dense cracks, countless earth and stones were pressed down, constantly bombarding into the deeper depth. A deep pit is constantly forming. In addition to the Drought Jack's feet of the earth and stones being pressed down, the earth and stones within a radius of hundreds of meters were all lifted away. The whole piece of soil and rock of the formation was lifted off and shot out in all directions. Those pirates who were originally soft enough to be nearby were even more lifted off under this terrifying wave, and even more unlucky, they were smashed by huge and incomparable earth and stones, directly smashed into meat cakes, and their flesh and blood-blurred bodies flew out. Such a terrifying scene is like the end of the fall of the firmament, incomparably shocking, incomparably terrifying. Now, whether it is a pirate in the distance on the island or a pirate on the sea in the distance, everyone is shocked in their hearts. What kind of move is that? I don't know how many people looked at Marco, who was like a flame god, and they were shocked beyond words. Almost the same adjective came up in everyone's heart: eternal as the sun. Is this the killing move of the undead bird fruit? Everyone looked at the terrifying scene like the explosion of the sun, and for the first time, they saw that the killing moves of the animal system, phantom beast species, and undead bird fruit ability were so terrifying. Never seen Marco use the immortal bird's fruit ability to kill before. Could it be that he recently developed it? There are sea thieves from the underworld, so low. He used to be a strong man in the sea, and he had fought with Marco many times, and he couldn't be more clear about Marco's ability. At this time, he saw Marco's terrifying killing move, and was immediately shocked. Marco's newly developed killing move actually had such an extremely terrifying degree of destructive power. Fortunately, when I fought him before, he hadn't developed this level of killing move. This sea thief, who once made a new world, involuntarily gave birth to such an absurd idea, which lingered in his mind. Aren't they all said that the fruit ability of the undead bird is not lethal? A little pirate whispered incredulously. Whoosh! A series of eyes like looking at idiots fell on this person in unison, and their gazes expressed the same meaning very clearly. Stupid, this kind of big terrorist killing move, if it is not lethal, then what can be called lethal? The person who spoke before immediately shrunk his neck and muttered weakly, I just heard what people said. Syllable. His captain slapped him on the back of the head, glared at him, and angrily rebuked, Stupid, don't hear people say this and that every day, hurry up and go to the toilet, don't embarrass Lao Tzu. This little pirate looked aggrieved. It's just an inconsequential episode. Everyone's eyes returned to the island again. The terrifying flame storm is still continuing, the air has been distorted, the formation is constantly bursting, countless dust has been lifted away, and the scene was once like an apocalyptic natural disaster. Drought Jack's feet were constantly pressed into the formation, endless blue flames reflected in his eyes. This was the first time he fought against the enemy, and he had a strong sense of oppression, which was shame and anger. Roar. In the endless flames, Drought Jack was furious, roaring suddenly, and the whistling sound shook the mountains and forests. His arms, which were full of astonishing power, sent out a powerful force, pouring into the two sickle-like slashes, forcibly trying to slash upwards. It doesn't work as he wants. Marco is unstoppable, that earth-destroying punch, carrying endless flames, constantly pressing down. Rumble. In the end, Drought Jack's body quickly retreated, the earth continued to burst under his feet, and the dust rolled upside down, forming billowing smoke. Almost at the same time, the blue flames like the blazing sun also poured down, and the ground instantly burst out of a huge pit, and the flames splashed, terrifyingly dazzling. Drought Jack, who is known for his ruthlessness, has also begun to learn to retreat. Marco vibrated his flaming wings, suspended in midair, and in his faint words, there was an undisguised killing intent in his calmness. When I unscrew your head and tear your mouth apart, you can't be so insolent. Marco, Drought Jack's thunderous voice had just sounded, and his huge and burly body had already rushed towards Marco like a cannonball. This time, take the initiative to attack, the terrifying momentum is terrifying. Drought Jack rushed out with a murderous heart, approaching Marco almost instantly. He swung a sharp slash with both hands and slashed out in a crossed posture. The domineering armed color domineering, covering its double swords, black light flowing, pitch black as terrifying as an abyss, streaked through the air, leaving two black light phantoms, fiercely slashing towards Marco. If these two knives are slashed, no matter how strong the physical body is, I am afraid that they will only be cut into 4 segments on the spot. Wow. Marco's domineering appearance, he already knew the trajectory of the slash in advance, but he did not retreat, nor dodged. The pair of flaming wings behind him shook in vain, and the whole person did not retreat. Let Drought Jack's double knives come and not even look at it. While Marco rushed forward at great speed, his hands spread out at the same time like a big pung, and above his hands, 2 flames of different colors suddenly appeared, and the flames were instantly compressed to the limit, turning into 2 fireballs of destruction that made the air constantly twist and deform. The fireball of destruction in his left hand is blue, and the fireball of destruction in his right hand is crimson. This is the destructive power of the undead bird's ability, the complete opposite of the previous immortal punch. Immortality and destruction, the 2 extreme abilities, are vividly displayed. It's too late, it's too soon. Drought Jack's double knives fell fiercely and cruelly on Marco's chest, and in Marco's hands, the 2 colors of destruction fireballs also pressed fiercely on Drought Jack's body almost at the same time. Episode 64, Poof. Marco's domineering chest, covered with amazing armed colors, was cut open by Drought Jack's double knives. The moment the skin and flesh bloomed, the dark blue regeneration flame burst into flame. And Marco's hands were polar blue, one polar red, compressed to the limit, and pressed into Drought Jack's flesh at the same time, nourishing, shocking the destructive power, the latter's powerful and invincible flesh, straight through, 2 different colors of destruction fireballs, forced into the flesh. Drought Jack's physical body, starting from the place where the 2 fireballs of destruction pressed, was constantly destroyed, shocking, extremely terrifying. Boom. At this moment, the incomparably strong metal jaws that Drought Jack brought on his mouth shattered with a bang. Reveal his dead-bited, jagged teeth. Scary and terrifying. The intense pain made Drought Jack open his eyes and clench his teeth. It was definitely the first time he had suffered to this level. Meanwhile, airplanes. The collision of the 2 Vice-Emperor-level life and death forces produced a dull sound like a torpedo exploding in the water, and this dull sound was instantly heard. A terrifying explosion erupted, with an incomparably piercing brilliance, making everyone unable to look directly. Click. Above the formation, there was a large-scale collapse, and huge earth and stones were lifted away, annihilated while being lifted, turned into powder, and ceased to exist. This amazing force was enough to sweep away all the earth and rocks in the formation within a radius of nearly 1,000 meters of the battle, and the huge ancient tree, under the impact, had already fallen in pieces. In the mountains and forests, countless fierce beasts screamed and screamed. The entire island shook violently, and the huge rift on the ground was constantly spreading towards the depths of the island. It's terrifying. This is the pinnacle duel of the Vice-Emperor level, and the terrifying power that broke out under the fierce battle of life and death. Boom. Immediately after, like rolling thunder, the deafening explosion sounded continuously, resounding in the sky, and even the surrounding sea was shaken with countless waves. Boom. Drought Jack flew out upside down towards the island, his huge body, like a mountain, in the process of blasting, stirring up billowing smoke, earth and rocks rolled upside down, and the rumbling sound continued. Crash. Marco also flew out upside down, but in the process of flying upside down, the whole person flipped in the air, his wings shook, soaring into the sky, and when he volleyed again, the pair of huge flame wings more than 40 meters long covered the sky and the momentum thundered. Where the two fought before, the roar continues, using this place as a dividing point until the port, and the island formation of this whole area, continues to crumble. Countless bottomless cracks crisscross and spread. This huge area completely collapsed, and huge earth and rocks continued to sink into the sea, and the sea water rushed upside down, stirring up the waves in the sky. Island, in just now, a large area has been sunk. Looking at this shocking scene, many pirates who had already been shocked to the point of numbness in their scalps tightened their hearts, and this kind of world-destroying battle made them feel frightened and hairy inside. Fierce battle at the level of the Vice-Emperor. What a ruin! Such an idea was born in the hearts of all people. Drought Jack. The chest was cracked, there were 2 huge holes, and even the flesh and blood were completely destroyed. This is... Marco typed it, it's terrible, the deep-sea crocodile, who had already retreated to a hill in the distance, said with a numb scalp looking at Drought Jack who had smashed countless ancient trees in the distance. As he said, I saw that before Drought Jack's chest, 2 big holes, one with white freezing gas coming out, the other with burning and boiling smoke, these 2 big holes, even flesh and blood no longer exist. Seeing Drought Jack so miserable, shoo. This murderer, who had offered a reward of more than 800 million, couldn't help but gasp for it, Marco. When did it become so strong? Having fought with the Whitebeard Pirates and fought with Marco several times, he was shocked to find out for the first time today that Marco not only developed the killing moves of the undead bird fruit ability, but also continued to kill moves, and the destructive power reached the level of destroying the world. Marco. Safe and sound? Beside him, several pirates tilted their heads, looked at Marco, who fluttered their wings in midair, and couldn't help but exclaim. Deep-sea crocodile hurriedly raised his head and looked up at the sky. When he saw that the burning dark blue regeneration flame on Marco's chest was extinguished, the wound was close to healing, and the whole person was like being struck by 3,000 lightning, and his head was buzzing. Impossible. That's impossible. Vice-Emperor level life and death fierce battle, how can the injuries caused by it recover and heal so quickly? Even if it is the regeneration flame, it is impossible to recover the injuries caused by the Vice-Emperor in such a short period of time. The flame of regeneration is able to heal wounds, exert the nirvana rebirth ability of undead birds, and even ignore the wounds of enemies. The fierce battle of life and death between the Vice-Emperor levels, the wounds left behind, if you want to recover, it is impossible to complete in a short time. It was the lethal, extremely destructive Vice-Emperor, the terrifying slash left by Drought Jack. It is simply impossible to heal wounds in such a short time. But, why, now Marco has done it? Shock. Horror. All the emotions related to shock are rolling in the hearts of many pirates. Big event, has it begun? I'm afraid, it's been completely started. The islands, all sunk a large area. Who is fighting? Is it with Marco? In the distance, several large pirate ships sailed over, and the pirates on the deck, holding binoculars, looked at the island, and just saw the collapsing area of the island. For a time, it was shocking. Look. Midair. That is, undead bird Marco, someone pointed into the air and exclaimed. Everyone on the boat looked up and saw Marco spreading his huge flaming wings, shocked for a long time and unable to calm down. Quick. Write a report, this is definitely the big news that shocks the world. On the deck, a crane spat out. Lord Editor-in-Chief, this time. Caught the shocking news, it's sent. This time, our circulation has definitely skyrocketed, several cadres were stunned and praised. Get out. A bunch of writing and publishing, it's too late. Hurry up and move the photography phone bug. By he flapped his wings and fanned several subordinates into the air. Give me a live broadcast of this big event. I'm going to make the new world. Utter shock. Ninth more, no power, no power. The notebook still has 7% electricity. I want to cry. Everyone give a full order to comfort me. Episode 65, Island. In the mountains and forests. Actually. It's hurt. Even the 2 shocking holes in his chest did not affect Drought Jack at all. He stood up suddenly, the muscles on his body bulged, the powerful physical healing ability was displayed, and the blood almost stopped in the blink of an eye. For Drought Jack, he came this time not only to avenge his subordinates, but also for the reason that he came from the 100 Beasts Kaido. Kaido personally issued an order to annex all the territory of the Whitebeard Pirates and eliminate all the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates. This order, on the eve of the war on the top, had already been given, but at the beginning, Kaido personally went to the first half of the Great Passage, intending to intercept the white-bearded pirate group, but halfway out of the way to bite the gold, gave the red-haired Shanks a face, and ran the plan aground. After the top war, Whitebeard fell, and the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates were hunted down by Blackbeard. Kaido's annexation plan was restarted. and Marco is the primary goal. For Marco, anyone who wants to kill him, regardless of whether the enemy is strong or weak, he will not let go of one. Drought Jack. The undead bird Marco is a mortal enemy by birth. Oh. At this time, in the sky, Marco rushed over, and his indifferent voice of murderous intent resounded throughout the island. Drought Jack, are you so seriously injured that you can't move? This little injury can't kill me. Harry Drought Jack, look up and roar. Rise. The roar was high, his body swelled violently, and with a loud bang, he turned into a huge mammoth, like a desolate beast. Those two fierce and cruel fangs flashed a Sunsun streamer. This pair of fangs once pierced through the bodies of countless enemies. Those enemies, without exception, are famous in the New World. At the moment when Drought Jack turned into a mammoth, his top armed color domineering had covered his body. Those two fangs are even more vicious. Defense, destruction, at this moment, all have been extremely improved. This is a real behemoth, animal system, elephant fruit, mammoth form. Drought Jack stepped out, the whole ground was like an earthquake, and around its footprints, there were slender cracks, and the ground was cracking, as terrifying as the ground drying up. Boom. The mammoth rushed out in the direction of Marco, an amazing storm formed, he swept over, and everywhere he passed, all the trees, rocks, and obstacles were smashed into powder, annihilated on the spot, and the ground shook violently, like an earthquake, which was extremely amazing. Marco. I will completely slaughter you and annihilate you. I'm afraid that the person who is completely killed will be you. Marco rushed diagonally in the distance, like blue lightning, attacking and killing. Trample. Two powerful forces, fast approaching. Drought Jack jumped in vain, and this behemoth rose from the ground and rushed towards Marco. Airplanes. In Marco's hands, a hammer of the god of war suddenly appeared, and this huge and incomparable hammer of the god of war was surrounded by flames, the whole body was full of light, and the strongest armed color was domineering, covering it. Marco, who rushed diagonally, held a hammer in both hands, and a domineering hammer rounded out, smashing fiercely at the mammoth that was rushing backwards. Almost between breaths, the sledgehammer in Marco's hand fell. Click. The sound of the air being torn apart was as amazing as lightning cutting through the sky. Ong. The mammoth ate painfully, screamed to the sky, and he was smashed down in an instant. The huge body fell rapidly, and the huge trees in the middle of the way were directly crushed into powder. With a boom, the ground was smashed out of a deep pit, and in an instant, earth and rock splashed, and smoke and dust rose from the sky. Rise. The mammoth, which is worthy of the strongest defensive force, was plunged by a terrifying force, but only broke the blood flow and immediately escaped from the deep pit. Crash. Marco waved his flaming wings, and immediately the wind raged, and the two blue flames turned into long knives and swept out, and everywhere they passed, patches of forest trees turned into flat earth. The long knife came straight to Drought Jack. This level of strength can't hurt me. Drought Jack roared, and the huge nose covered with armed domineering color suddenly flicked, and actually shattered the two flame-long knives that came from the attack. Can't hurt you? The huge, flame-god hammer in Marco's hand, like Thor's hammer, was suddenly raised above his head. This flame-divine hammer suddenly grew in size rapidly, turning into a sledgehammer that covered the sky. This hammer is bigger than Drought Jack below. Then eat me. Rumble. Marco, who was holding the heavenly gathering street, suddenly fell from the sky and fell with a hammer. The sledgehammer, which was bigger than Drought Jack, covered with the top armed color domineering, hit the mammoth with incomparable precision. Thundered. The miserable Drought Jack was directly pounded into the earth. For a while, the earth in the sky splashed out. Another huge pit formed. The earth shook violently, and huge cracks cracked open in an instant, spreading at an extremely fast speed like lightning. Boom. Suddenly, a huge dirt bag suddenly bulged from the nearby earth, and a huge mammoth rushed out of the formation. Huh? Twisting the sledgehammer, Marco, who flew in midair and levitated in midair, was slightly stunned. Mammoth. Even drill holes. In fact, it is not a hole, but Drought Jack with terrifying power, shaking the land on the side to a breakthrough. Crash. Marco didn't care about 3, 7, and 21, twisted the sledgehammer and raised it again, and with a bang, it was a hammer smashed into the mammoth Drought Jack that had just come out of the soil. Rumble. Shocking hammer, falling again. Ong. With an angry shout, mammoth Drought Jack smashed into the formation again. Boom. Mammoth Drought Jack broke through the ground. But Marco chased after him and didn't intend to let him go at all. Boom. Another hammer. Mammoth Drought Jack only felt dizzy. At this moment, he actually hated his unparalleled defensive power extremely much. He originally transformed into a mammoth to increase his defense and destructive power, intending to kill Marco. Outcome. The mammoth form, which has the power of the flood, has no chance to exert the power of the flood at all. Instead, he became Marco's living target and was smashed into the dirt by a merciless hammer. In the midst of pain, the mammoth Drought Jack was once again smashed into the earth. Drought Jack in the dirt was extremely angry inside. He wanted to dodge the merciless beating of the evil sledgehammer, but was surprised to find that under Marco's domineering appearance, he couldn't escape at all, couldn't dodge. Only, beaten. What do I want this mammoth form for? For the first time in his life, Drought Jack felt that this mammoth form was so superfluous. Endless anger kept surging up in his heart. The 10th is more sent. Episode 66. Filled with anger, Drought Jack clashed the ground, just wanted to burst out of power, rushed up, and attacked Marco. Outcome, boom. An earth-shattering loud bang sounded, and his huge body was hammered into the ground again. The defense is really strong enough. Marco in midair, marveling at Drought Jack's strong defenses, shook the sledgehammer in his hand, and saw that the domineering spirit always tracked Drought Jack, not giving him any chance to slow down. If Drought Jack, who was hammered into the ground again, knew what Marco was thinking, he would probably jump to his feet. Because, even if Drought Jack's defense power is strong, and Marco has been hammered so many times, his whole wound, which had only stopped bleeding, has collapsed again. The blood gurgled and flowed out of life. The soil in the formation is dyed red. It is estimated that a flower planted with this red soil can produce red. That is, Drought Jack is strong and has a lot of blood, and with such a terrifying bleeding speed, it is enough for him to bleed for most of the day. If you change to someone else, I'm afraid you would have bled to death long ago. This is, exactly. Whack-a-mole. Above the sea in the distance, the pirates watching the battle looked at such a scene in shock, looking at Marco holding a sledgehammer, and smashed the mammoth form of Drought Jack into the mud puddle with a hammer. They were all stunned. You may not believe it when you say it, but the battle at the level of the Vice-Emperor will actually evolve into a whack-a-mole? That is, Drought Jack head is invincible. If you change to someone else, I am afraid that you will have long been smashed and vomited blood to death. Someone was secretly alarmed. He was not only amazed at Marco's powerful means of smashing the gopher, but also surprised by Drought Jack's invincibility. If Drought Jack heard this pirate's words, he would definitely rush out and tear him apart. The ability of the flying undead bird fruit is too advantageous. Someone is so amazed. Pirate world flight ability is very, very rare. The sparkling fruit of the yellow ape, the general of the navy, and the thunder fruit of Ainalu, which has been blasted to the moon and can come down at some time, are ranked first, followed by the legendary sea thief golden lion Shurji's fluttering fruit ability ranks second, and behind Robin's flower fruit, Alabaston Bell's bird fruit, Doflamingo's line fruit, Perona's ghost fruit, and a few other kinds of flying can fly. In the entire world, countless devil fruit abilities are not rare. The ability to fly freely like Marco, even in a battle at the Vice-Emperor level, also occupies an innate advantage. It just so happens that Drought Jack loses so that we have a chance to get Marco's blood bounty order. Secretly, someone actually said so. During the fierce battle between Marco and Drought Jack, many sea thieves who had been in the New World arrived here, waiting for the opportunity to make a move. The relationship between the two four emperors is really too tempting. I don't know when the people of the Big Mom Pirates will return. Some people are more concerned about this issue. This time, the two major Four Emperors pirate group that will definitely participate in the battle, the 100 Beast pirate group, have arrived, and the people of the Big Mom pirate group have still not seen it. Wait for your chance, Marco. Vice-Emperor, there will also be times when he falls. These people did not seem to be afraid of the Vice-Emperor level in the slightest. They care more about the Four Emperors. While everyone is amazed. Drought Jack on the island was hammered several times by Marco. The two big holes in Drought Jack's body were like blood collapses, and blood flowed out. Even if he had terrifying healing powers, he couldn't stop this blood collapse at all. My strength is constantly draining. This is the thing that frightens Drought Jack the most. As the blood continues to pop out, his strength is also constantly draining and weakening. He understood this. I'm afraid that's Marco's real purpose. If you wait until your strength is lost, Marco can solve himself at a very small cost. Because after that, Marco has to face countless enemies to besiege and kill. What a big wishful thinking. Although Drought Jack is reckless, he is not stupid at all, and after a little thought, he understands Marco's wishful thinking. He won't let Marco get his wish. Rumble. Before Marco could fall the hammer again, Drought Jack took the initiative to smash the surface and escape. Huh? Marco was stunned. This time he didn't hit it. Thundered. In the short time when Marco was stunned, not far away, a small mountain was suddenly lifted up, and with a boom, this stone mountain was directly pulled up and thrown towards Marco. Throw the mountain with your bare hands. Marco swung a sledgehammer and smashed the bombarded stone mountain with one hammer, and for a time, the dust splashed in the sky, blocking his view. Thundered. On the other side, a large mountain suddenly trembled violently, and countless boulders rolled down from it. Boom! The sky exploded with rubble, only to see Drought Jack rush out. He immediately transformed from the mammoth form into a human form, the hands full of explosive power, grabbed a boulder, and threw it fiercely at Marco in midair. Boom! The boulder blasted over, Marco volleyed out with a punch, and the boulder, projected at extreme speed, was directly shattered. Followed by 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, huge stone, thrown by Drought Jack, bombarded Marco. That's not a good idea. The 40 or 50 meter long flaming wings behind Marco suddenly flapped violently, and endless blue flames slanted out towards the boulders that bombarded one by one. Almost a face-to-face, all the boulders were annihilated under the blue flames. Doesn't pose any threat to Marco. At this moment, rumble. 2 boulders covered with the domineering power of the top armed color broke through the blue flame and smashed into Marco at great speed. Armed color domineering. Marco was in danger, and his domineering appearance saw the trajectory of these 2 boulders, and immediately stretched out his hand and punched out. The more top-notch and powerful armed color domineering instantly covered his fist. Boom! 2 huge stones covered with armed color domineering energy burst in response, and stone powder scattered all over the sky. Shout! Marco no longer hesitated and took the initiative to swoop down towards Drought Jack below. Drought Jack, don't bother anymore, I'll talk to you. Close combat, bellow. Drought Jack roared, he was covered in blood, extremely furious. The pair of huge flaming wings behind Marco suddenly retracted, and his whole person was like a cannonball, bombarding down. Roar. The 11th is even more sent, lay down, got up and wrote another one, this one more, thanks to all the readers who subscribed. Thank you. Subscribe to the full, renew. The more subscriptions, the more powerful the explosion. Episode 67. When many pirates saw Marco swooping down, they already knew that this battle between vice-emperors had entered the end. Will anyone die? Someone asked. I think Drought Jack is going to die. It's not that simple. Above this sea, how many years has no one seen the true strength of Drought Jack? Don't underestimate the ability of animal fruits, a sea thief said. I wonder what the animal fruit ability will become if it awakens the fruit ability? Over there, the mountains and forests were shaking, violently shaking the entire earth to pieces, and on the earth, one after another shocking deep pits, extremely shocking. Shout. Marco swooped down, the sledgehammer in his hand turned into a blazing spear, and when the sharp and piercing sound of breaking the sky came out, his whole person was already close to Drought Jack, and the flame spear left a series of blue phantoms in the air, from top to bottom, with the momentum of thunder, slashing towards Drought Jack. For a time, there was a sound of wind and thunder over the island. Zheng. Drought Jack's eyes were furious, erupting with unprecedented terrifying power. The top-level armed color domineering covered the weapon, and the 2 sides in his hand appeared in a cross shape, facing Marco, fiercely slashing upwards. 2 white slashes, in an instant, fell on Marco's flaming spear. What is surprising is that these 2 cross-like slashes are completely unable to stop the terrifying slash of the flame spear, and the slash is directly split from the middle by the flame spear in the roar, shattered into 4 segments, and rushed into the sky. Thundered. Those 4 shattered slashes, roaring, rushed into the sky, slashing the clouds in the sky. From a distance, it is like the sky being shattered. It's impressive. The battle between the 2 completely entered the heat of the day, and the moment of the clash, it was like thunder exploding from the sky, and the terrifying fluctuations turned into a circle of ripples, sweeping around, and everything was shattered. Boom. It's too late, it's too soon. Marco slammed down with a shot. Drought Jack slashes with both knives. The weapons of the 2 that covered the most top-notch armed color domineering, the moment they slashed together, a terrifying fluctuation formed, sweeping out in an instant. Click. What surprised Drought Jack in anger was that Marco's power was far beyond imagination. The earth under his feet directly burst, his feet instantly plunged into the dirt, and countless dirt burst out, and he was about to fall into the formation. Ong. Drought Jack roared with all his might, full of anger. In vain he erupted with a huge and unprecedented power, and he blocked this shot abruptly. Marco missed a blow, his body fell backwards sharply, a gorgeous flip in the air, and beautifully landed on the ground. Roar. At this moment, Drought Jack's burly and huge body suddenly emitted bursts of hot smoke, and his body became as red as a hot iron, and his body was constantly getting bigger. The skin hardens like gray steel, and the muscles all over the body extend and change as if they have been torn. There was boiling white smoke rising from his body, as if he could easily smash a town with a single move. Especially the mouth full of densely packed jagged fangs, fierce, makes people feel even more frightened. In the end, Drought Jack turned into a terrifying giant with a body of more than 30 meters, with a hideous appearance, a fierce face, and extremely brutal. It's just that, on its chest, the two shocking huge holes are still flowing with red blood. Marco was secretly surprised that Drought Jack's current appearance was not like the giants of this world, but more like the brutal and fierce giants among the attacking giants. Especially the mouth full of shark-like jagged teeth, just looking at it, makes people feel that the scalp is numb. This counts. Is the animal fruit ability awakened? The many pirates in the distance were even more shocked. No one answered this question, whether this is the awakening of the ability of the animal system. There is no way to dialectical, and no one knows. Because no one has ever seen Drought Jack in this look, too. No one has ever driven it to such a point. In this state, the hegemony is ruthless, but he does not distinguish between the enemy and me, and kills people when he sees them. Not only that, but also the price that Drought Jack cannot bear will make his muscles begin to gradually atrophy and his strength begin to weaken. The longer this state of affairs continues, the greater the subsequent cost. Just looking at it, I feel that my scalp is numb. How terrifying is the Drought Jack in this state? This scene, I don't know how many pirates, my heart is shocked. Those with animal fruit ability have always been ranked in the worst position, the first natural system, the second superhuman system, and the second is the animal system. At this moment, no one dares to underestimate the elephant fruit of Drought Jack. After all, it was, where you passed, no grass grows Drought Jack. Down with him, it can be done. If you really want to kill Drought Jack, it's too difficult. And Marco at the moment. I just want to kill Drought Jack. Marco. Drought Jack's voice, like rolling thunder, resounded throughout the island and constantly reverberated in the sky. With this sound, it seems that even the clouds have been shaken apart. Rumble. Before the words fell, Drought Jack's giant-like body suddenly threw an extremely violent punch. Above his huge fist, there was smoke, a punch burst out, and the terrifying explosion was like thunder. Marco didn't have any extra words, seeing that his domineering spirit was once again improved in this battle. His body jumped, and he directly dodged the terrifying punch of Drought Jack. The huge fist swept forward against Marco, and the powerful fist wind blew Marco's top to the ground, and his skin hurt. I was actually hidden. Drought Jack is restless. Thundered. His fist was unabated, directly blowing up a mountain, and the earth and stones in the sky exploded like brilliant fireworks. This level of strength, once hit, I am afraid that even the strongest physical body will be difficult to bear. But, in Marco's mind, he quickly thought of a way to kill Drought Jack. Shout. The pair of huge flaming wings behind Marco appeared again, and the wings shook and flew up. In the process, Drought Jack struck again, and in his huge hand, the bearer billowed smoke, and fiercely grabbed Marco, who had just flown up. Marco tilted his wings, and dodged the blow, in a thrilling manner. This thrilling scene made all the pirates nervous. Don't let me catch you, I will smash you to pieces, and not even a single bone will be left intact. Drought Jack's voice roared through the island. I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. Because I will kill you here completely. Marco's plain words full of murderous intent came out, his body, already killed. Episode 68. Meanwhile. Distance from the sea near the island where Marco is. Ahead, it should be the island where Marco is. Foil Bista wearing a black hat stands above a pirate ship, clutching a telescope and looking ahead. On the sea over there are pirate ships of different sizes. Judging from the flags hoisted by those pirate ships, they are almost all famous pirate groups in the New World. Boom. Suddenly, Foil Bista felt an extremely strong vibration wave, and even the sea surface on his side could feel a strong vibration. Has the big battle broken out? Foil Bista, who has always been calm and sophisticated, looked in the direction where Marco was, and couldn't help but tighten his heart. He reached out and gripped the handle of the knife at his waist. Don't be fine. Dad and Ace. It's gone, family, there are only a few of us left. I'll be there soon. Hold on, farther out to sea. Several large pirate ships were sailing towards this side at full speed, and several long white waves were stirred up on the sea. Just now the news came that Marco is fighting fiercely with Drought Jack of the 100 Beast Pirates. Their battle. It's already in the heat of the day. Charlotte Snag, hidden in her clothes like a wide door panel, spoke. That's not just right, we're sitting on the harvest. Charlotte Smoogie, a long-legged man, spoke. Even without Drought Jack stepping in, we could have easily taken Marco. Charlotte Clee, shrouded in huge cookie armor, said coldly, Marco wants you to hold out until we arrive, and don't be killed until then. If that's all you have to do, I'm not even interested in making a move. The huge 1,000-hand gram frame with a reward of 860 million berry, the plain and domineering words, revealed an incomparably strong confidence. Island. The Drought Jack, which was more than 30 meters long, swept towards Marco again with a terrifying fist. This is a terrifying fist that can burst a mountain. But seeing Marco, who spread his huge flame wings and flew low, he didn't have the slightest intention of dodging. He did not retreat, and his arm suddenly turned into a huge, immortal bird surrounded by flames, and a punch popped out, filling the sky with flames. Bang! The fists of the two clashed hard together. In an instant, heaven and earth roared, and white energy surged out, and along with it, there was also the blue flame spark, which exploded like fireworks. Stumble. In the state of the giant, Drought Jack was actually beaten back a full 13 steps. Every step back, a distance of more than 20 meters. The whole process of retreating smashed the side of a mountain, and the earth and rocks exploded in the sky. Roar. Drought Jack only felt that his chi and blood were constantly tumbling upward, and his entire arm was numb, which made him angry and roared like crazy. He couldn't believe that Marco's strength was so strong that it could be compared to himself. He rushed at Marco again. Marco punched back Drought Jack, his figure flipped gorgeously, sank a few meters, and rushed towards the two blood holes in front of Drought Jack. This is the preparation he left behind from the beginning, just to kill Drought Jack. Others may not know the state of Drought Jack at the moment, but Marco knows better than anyone. At the beginning, with two high-intensity compressed terrifying fireballs of destruction, the two blood holes left on its body were crucial factors, and then Marco twisted the sledgehammer and constantly weakened Drought Jack's physical strength with crazy means. Even if Drought Jack incarnates as a giant and makes himself enhance in all directions at a terrible price, it is still impossible to return to his peak state. Airplanes. Drought Jack's fist locked onto Marco and bombarded down. Wow. On the back of the flight, Marco suddenly transformed into a flaming blue undead bird, facing the fist that Drought Jack bombarded down, and rushed upwards. Without exception, this illusionary blue flame immortal bird was shattered by a punch, and the flames burst out, and the terrifying and amazing chi waves rolled up the bursting flames, and shot towards the 4 fields below. Poof. Meanwhile, Marco was no exception, and his fist slammed into Drought Jack's body. Both hands slammed into the 2 blood holes that had been left behind. The fierce power of Pembai frantically rushed from Marco's hands into Drought Jack's body. The extremely cold freezing flame, the boiling burning flame, rushed in first. This was followed by the devastating fire of destruction. At the moment when he was blasted into the blood hole by Marco's fists, Drought Jack's whole face suddenly changed, and his giant body, which only had the intention of killing, made a decision that no one else would make. There is no defense. Didn't stop Marco. Instead, the hands that condensed all their strength grabbed Marco's shoulders at the speed of tearing the air. Want to tear Marco in half. It's just that. Marco's speed was obviously faster, and the moment the terrifying boiling flame of destruction frantically rushed into Drought Jack's body, it opened up a wreak havoc, and this degree of destruction was unstoppable and irreparable. Drought Jack, who just wanted to use all his strength to tear Marco apart, suddenly let out a miserable roar. Many pirates in the distance, hearing this heart-rending scream, couldn't help but feel a tingling of their scalps, one by one. Nope. I'm going to tear you, Drought Jack roared. He suddenly poured all his strength, armed color domineering covering his hands, all the remaining power in his body burst out, the terrifying power enhanced by the animal devil fruit. This was an unprecedented earth-shattering force, all of which burst into his hands, that grabbed Marco's shoulders. An unprecedented sense of crisis enveloped Marco, but he didn't care. Marco didn't even look at Drought Jack's giant hands that have the power to tear everything apart. Lao Tzu wants to tear you apart. Drought Jack, whose pain was rapidly increasing, roared suddenly, and his hands suddenly tore apart. At the moment when he tore hard, sudden changes, Drought Jack's huge giant body shrank abruptly. Changed back to his original appearance. And his power, also at this moment, gone. Because his body, the source of all the power in his body, has been ravaged and destroyed. Drought Jack's pupils suddenly shrank, and those copper bell-sized eyes were covered with terrifying bloodshot and endless anger and unwillingness. Click. Marco pressed his hands in Drought Jack's body and suddenly grabbed 2 ribs. Whoosh. An incomparably huge pair of blue flame wings opened up from Marco's back again, majestic and atmospheric, like dreamlike wings, burning endless blue flames. Call. The huge flaming wings flapped and Marco flew into the air, in his hands, grabbing Drought Jack's body. Episode 69. At this moment, whether it was the pirates on the island or the pirates who retreated to the sea, seeing such a scene, everyone was completely boiling. The pirates from the pirate groups in the New World gasped one by one. Astound. Shock. Astonished. Fear. All the emotions related to shock all surged up in an instant, hitting everyone's heart. Marco grabbed Drought Jack and flew into the sky. What do you want to do? Someone exclaimed. Everyone's eyes looked at the sky over the island, at Marco with huge flaming wings up to 40 or 50 meters long, at the blue raging flames in the sky, and at the Drought Jack who was caught in Marco's hands. This is Do you really want to kill Drought Jack? Someone said with great shock. The vast majority of people are so shocked by the idea. Is the Vice Emperor of the 100 Beasts pirate group, one of the 3 major disasters, Drought Jack, about to fall today? Drought Jack can't die. How difficult is it to kill the 3 major disasters of the 100 Beasts pirates? Not to mention Marco between him and Drought Jack, even the 4 emperors want to kill Drought Jack, who is known for his physical strength. In such a short period of time, it is very difficult. At this time, in an area where a certain crowd of people gathered on the island, there was a pirate who had been silent from beginning to end, and said in a low voice at the beginning. Drought Jack is known for his physical strength, strong defense, strong destructive power, also has a perverted strong recovery ability, strong monster-like endurance and physical strength. Many pirates' eyes looked over, but they only saw a white robe covering their entire body, and even their faces were wearing a mask. This guy continued idly, how powerful is the vitality of Drought Jack, and he is the elephant fruit known for its vitality in the animal lineage. Maybe Marco can win with speed and agility and flying ability, but if he really wants to kill Drought Jack in such a short time, it is absolutely impossible. What he meant was obvious. Marco can defeat Drought Jack, and may eventually kill Drought Jack, but it is impossible to kill a monster like Drought Jack, who is known for its all-round strength in the flesh, in such a short period of time. It seems to make sense. Many people nodded in agreement with this view, and if you think about it, it is true. Bang! At this moment, over the island, there was an extremely violent explosion. The next picture made all the pirates completely stunned. I saw that in midair, the Drought Jack that Marco was holding in both hands, in his body, a strong dazzling blue light flashed, and the moment this light broke out, a destructive force enveloped the heavens and the earth. Followed by the endless blue light, with a wave of drought after destruction, Jack was thrown down by Marco, rapidly falling Drought Jack, like a flash bomb, a strong light flashed, instant burst explode. Countless flesh and blood splattered, bones shattered. Rumble. The flesh and blood and bone fragments that fell out instantly ignited a terrifying blue flame. In the end, only wisps of ashes remained, falling fluttering and falling. Drought Jack. Only a few wisps of ashes remained. Such a picture shocks the visual nerves of every pirate, and they, one by one, are like suffering 3,000 lightning strikes, and their heads are down on the spot. Be quiet. Eerily quiet. The whole island, the sea around the island, all the pirates, not a word can be spoken. Everyone stared blankly at the few strands of ashes that fluttered down in the air, opened their mouths wide, wanted to speak, but couldn't even say a single exclamation onomatopoeia. This unprecedented sense of shock, like a terrifying wave, rolled violently in the hearts of every pirate, impacting their hearts. Until all the ashes fall. After a long time. The sound of panic, like a flash flood and tsunami, erupted in unison. This can't be true, right? Countless people felt incredible and couldn't believe this amazing means. Drought Jack, who is known for his physical supremacy, actually banged like this and exploded. Fried so that there was not even a bit of flesh and bone left, only wisps of ashes were left after the explosion. It's incredible. This can't be. The pirate who swore before to analyze the Drought and Jack could not die, now the whole person stayed in place. This guy looked in the direction of the island and shook his head vigorously, he, unable to accept this reality. In his analysis, it is impossible for a Vice-Emperor level powerhouse like Drought Jack, who is known for his physical supremacy, to be killed so easily, and if you want to kill an existence like Drought Jack, you can only spend more than 10 days to consume it little by little. But the scene in front of me all explains. Drought Jack is not only dead, the strongest flesh body exploded instantly, and the flesh and blood were incinerated, leaving only wisps of ashes. And the whole process, Marco only took a very short time, so short that everyone did not react. No. This can't be true. How could Drought Jack die so easily? The guy, shrouded in white robes and wearing a mask, muttered in horror. Syllable. Suddenly, a burly and tall pirate stood up beside him, slapped this guy's head sharply, clicked, and the mask he wore on his head was directly shattered, revealing an ugly face that was lewd and sewn with a slit. Not only that, this slap directly pumped him away. It's not fierce. Boom. Then, the guy in the white robe covered his whole body, slammed into a big tree, almost knocking him out and dying. Does it hurt? The burly and tall pirate, stretching out his slap, asked. It hurts. The white-robed man covered his face and squatted on the ground, constantly gasping for air in pain. Does it really hurt? The burly pirate asked with narrowed eyes. I'm really in pain. The white-robed man finally felt it now, what a painful realization. The pain is real. Really, it's all true. Drought Jack, just like that, was blasted by Marco with a bang. The sea pirate with a reward of 1 billion Bailey, the henchman of the 4 emperors and 100 beasts pirate group Kaido, one of the 3 major disasters, Drought Jack. Blasted alive by the undead bird Marco. Explode with a few wisps of ashes. Just right. From the scene of Drought Jack being grabbed into the sky by Marco's flaming wings that spread 40 or 50 meters long, to the final Drought Jack's body is like a flash bomb, the strong light flashes, explodes, burns, and turns into ashes, photographed by several oversized camera phone bugs on a large pirate ship on the sea. These photography bugs belong to the newspaper of the world. Episode 70, Photographic Phone Bugs. This footage is relayed to the world's large islands. This extremely shocking scene, at an incredible speed, spread all over the world. The first half of the Great Passage. Chambord Islands. A green pheasant with a backpack and a penguin like a traveler, standing in front of a large tavern, saw the scene relayed from the projection phone bug about Marco fighting Drought Jack. The stupid penguin behind him stared at a pair of bird's eyes bulging, and its mouth made strange squeaking sounds. What a headache. The green pheasant in a trench coat rubbed his eyebrows and turned to find his bike. He thought of the agreement with Marco, and then thought of Blackbeard. Tiki asked me to go to you and avenge the rain no Shiryu. You say, am I not going or not? There were many pirates in the tavern, and no one noticed the green pheasants coming and going. At this moment, everyone stared at the broadcast picture one by one, and their hearts were shocked. That's the confidant of the 4 emperors of the New World King's Landing, Immortal, Kaido, one of the 3 major disasters, Drought Jack. Unexpectedly. Slaughtered by the undead bird Marco, New World. Earth-shattering events are happening, the sound of exclamation kept sounding. Whitebeard Pirates. Undead bird Marco, what the hell is this wanting? Someone was shocked. Some people also feel that this is a sign of the Whitebeard Pirates led by Marco to make a comeback and conquer the New World. Something similar to the situation in the Chambord Islands. It also happens on islands around the world. Especially the New World. Moreover, all the islands infested by slightly larger pirate groups are paying attention to this big event. They all saw the picture that shocked the world. Drought Jack is dead, the 4 emperors Kaido will definitely make a move. New World, is this about to fall into complete chaos? New World. Formerly G1 branch, now Navy headquarters. Yo, good but afraid of the battle. Poor Celino, wearing a yellow and white striped suit, said slowly. He has black curly hair on his head, a beard on his face, and his trademark exclusive slouchy expression, slightly upturned lips, slow tone, and a lively underwhelmed look. It's just that, looking at the entire New World, few people really dare to beat him. He is the strongest combat power in the naval headquarters, the natural system's shining fruit ability, poor Celino, Yellow Ape. In sharp contrast to the Yellow Ape's indifferent look, Marshal Sakaski, who was standing at the forefront, had a serious black face as always. Do you want the old man to go and get Marco back? The Yellow Ape said lazily and slowly, his flying ability, in front of the old man, is really too immature. Happy Street Islands. Stuxy, along with Bolivia, and a group of his men have been evacuated from Happy City, and they are all gathered on a large pirate ship. The ship stopped in a harbor that she kept secret, and their evacuation was unknown. Her Majesty just got a picture from the world's newspapers. About Lord Marco. At this time, a group of subordinates came out of the cabin and pushed a medium-sized projection telephone worm. One of them hurried over to report. Hurry up and play. Stuxy urged. Immediately. Marco twisted Drought Jack and played the scene of it blowing up. Shoo. On the deck, the subordinates gasped one after another. They have been in the underground world for many years, they know the influence and strength of Drought Jack. Even if there are many people in the underground world like the carp crossing the river, the mention of Drought Jack's fierce name will cause countless people to be frightened. But the picture just now shows that Drought Jack, a famous sea thief, was detonated by Marco. There are no bones left. Such a picture is too shocking. Even Bolivia covered her small mouth and looked shocked. Only Stuxy's body trembled slightly, her gaze kept falling on Marco, who was flying in midair, and she said in words that only she could hear, finally past the first major difficulty. The difficulties behind must be overcome, Lord Queen. A large pirate ship was found in the sea ahead, coming at us at full speed. Suddenly, a subordinate hurried to report, and she was holding a communication telephone worm in her hand. Stuxy took a deep breath. It was time to come, but finally came. Do you know, which pirate group is it? From the pirate flag pattern, I can see that the pirate ship comes from the Don Quixote pirate group led by His Majesty the 7 Marshalseas of Doflamingo. Sure enough, it's him. Came to avenge Virgo? A cruel color appeared on Stuxy's delicate face. Get out of here at full speed. All the timed explosives on the island, open them all for me, hoo-la-la. The pirate ship, which was full of Happy Street's annual income, withdrew from the Happy Street Islands at full speed under the command of Stuxy. As if they had disappeared, no one knew of their existence. In the entire Happy Street Islands, there are no people related to Stuxy, just those pirates who are greedy for pleasure. It didn't take long. Don Quixote pirates appear in the harbor. Young master. Do you want us to go in and slaughter? It doesn't need to be that troublesome. Doflamingo took a maverick step, walked to the street, he looked at the bustling street, the pirates came and went, there was no abnormality, he raised his hand, countless thin lines in his hand soared into the sky, it's really lively. The inhumane birdcage shrouded the entire main island of Happy Street like a cloud. Let the killing come more easily. Click. Not soon, there is news coming out, the Don Quixote pirates led by Doflamingo, on the main island of Happy Street. Injured by the explosion. On the island where Marco is located. A small pirate ship, unnoticed, docked on the coast. An uncle with a curly beard, a top hat, white gloves on his hands, cyan pants, a large blue-purple cape, a smile on his face, and a double sword on his back, landed on the island. Whitebeard Pirates. Captain of the 5th team, Foil Bista. On the sea, there was finally a sharp-eyed pirate with wide eyes, looking at the people who landed on the island. The appearance of Foil Bista, who was once tied with the world's #1 sword hero, Hawkeye Myhawk, made everyone's hearts shocked. Whitebeard Pirates. Is it about to make a comeback? On the sea, more pirates began to look over, and when they recognized Bista, they couldn't help but be shocked. This is definitely a symptom of rewriting the world. However, the pirates who noticed the landing of Bista on the island were a minority after all. At this time, Marco, who fell from midair, but his eyes fell not far in front of him, several fierce pirates appeared there,